Right, welcome everybody. Welcome, and we thank you for joining us. Joining us today for the Go Global webinar series, which continues with today's subject, global social media and international marketing for exporters. We thank you for joining us. It is a wonderful subject, the global social media and international marketing for exporters. We've got a lot of information to share with you today, and we thank you for joining us wherever you may be. We can see you across in the United States, so a good morning to you and a good afternoon to those of you in Europe. This is a truly online global webinar. We also want to acknowledge the very many of you who will tune into these webinars as they are recorded and available on demand. So wherever you are and whatever time and date it is, you are welcome, and we thank you for joining us. My name is John Worthington. I am CEO here at IBT Online, and I have the pleasure of hosting today's webinar. I have the huge pleasure of introducing this subject, global social media and online marketing for exporters. And indeed, it is one that we at IBT Online are very passionate about, because it is something that we do essentially every day as we're working to serve our clients to grow global sales, global brand, and global business. And we'd like to welcome you as we look at learning in this online and international world. The global social media world changes so very fast that keeping up to it is itself a challenge. And indeed, that is what we will be doing later today, helped by our two experts who I will be presenting in a moment. But before I do that, I'd like to jump to a little housekeeping. I always do a little housekeeping so you know what to expect from our online global webinar series. For those of you returning, and I see that there are many of you today, thank you for coming back, but you do know the drill. But nevertheless, a few words. Do know that this webinar, which is one of our Go Global webinar series, is all about helping you help your business to grow your sales, grow your brands and your businesses globally. That is the underlying objective and intent of these webinars, and we're very happy to say that there is a certain level of success and recognition of this series. The Go Global webinar series is now 3 years old, so there is a rich catalog of recorded webinars which are available to you. They're on demand, they cover many, many markets and online routes to those markets. So do go to www.ibt.onl/US/resources. Do know also future webinars. We plan them ahead of time. And so we have webinars coming up in the near future. So just go to resources and look for future webinars and you'll find the ones that are coming up. This webinar will be approximately 45 minutes with a brief housekeeping, which is right now. And then I'll be handing over to Susanna and Ines, who will be presenting the detail of today's social media programs. There will be 3 polls, so please be ready, get attentive. When we launch the polls, we love having your opinion. It's really important that we know your thoughts and your views, your opinions on the discussions and presentations today. There will be time for questions. Please, you see in the boxes on the right-hand side of your screen, third from the bottom, questions. Click on that arrow, open it up, submit your questions. We will be answering them at the end of this program. There is a chat box also, so don't hesitate to chat away. We'd love to chat back. Also, at the end of this webinar, there will be a brief survey. So please give us an extra 10 to 15 seconds of your time to give us some feedback so we can do better in the future in helping you grow your businesses globally. And finally, we are pleased to say this webinar is actually being recorded and the slide deck is being saved away so that on Friday you will be getting a recording of this webinar and slide deck. So all that you have to do now is sit back, whether you're drinking coffee or tea or anything else, enjoy the webinar, and I hope that we will give you lots of useful tips and takeaways from today's subject. Right, I would like to move on and get to the theme of why we are holding today's webinar. Today's webinar, Go Global series, is global social media and online marketing for exporters. And I'm very proud to be joined online by two expert guest speakers from the IBT Online team, notably Susanna Hardy on your screen there to the right, Director for Client Services, and Ines Botto from the International Online Marketing Specialist, both from IBT Online. And do know that Ines and Susanna have been working very hard preparing this webinar. There's been a lot of specific research going on to this, into this, assembling and curating all the useful information about global social media and online marketing, specifically from an exporter's point of view. IBT Online, we deliver our online global social media program for our clients, and we're doing that every day. We have valuable, up-to-date practical experience, lots of first-hand case studies and unique insights into what works. And also, as we said, what does not work. Our objective, of course, is that our clients have successful global social media campaigns to grow their sales, their brands, and their businesses. A few words on Susanna and a few words on Ines. Susanna, Director for Client Services. Susanna heads up our global online operations. We're focusing on helping companies use the IBT Online global range of services. If you find when Susanna is presenting that she sounds something very American, well, guess what that is? Because Susanna was born in Germany, in Freiburg, but was mostly educated and worked in the US, that is in New York, but as well has lived and worked in Europe, that is in Brussels, Paris, and London. Susanna is quintessentially international, understands online business and online business development and the online world, and has worked for a wide spectrum of companies in their online and global development. Ines is an international online marketing specialist here at IBT. I first had the pleasure of meeting Ines about 10 years ago. And at that time, I think she was presenting in French. For your information, Ines also is fluent in Portuguese, Spanish, Italian, and English. I hope that she'll be presenting in English to us today, but just to know she is a very qualified social media guru and works with our clients developing and implementing digital marketing strategies and ensuring their brands get a competitive edge and establishing a dominant international presence. And one thing amongst many that's nice about Ines is that Ines can do this firsthand, speaking these languages and understanding these cultures. Ines deploys a range of tactics using social media, content, and first-hand direct digital user experience to help our clients get out there and succeed internationally. When Ines and I were walking across the river today and talking about living and working in different countries, I was asking where Ines wanted to live, and she said, well, she's happy wherever she is and where she is today, which I just thought was a great response. So Ines, I think, is very happy internationally and online, and we'll be sharing a lot of great experiences of global social media with you today. Moving on, 2 words about IBT before I hand over. IBT Online. IBT Online is a privately held company. It's based in the US and in Europe. IBT stands for International Business and Technologies. We've been in business since 2002, helping companies grow their sales, their brands, and their businesses internationally. And we're looking at that, so that's over 15 years now. Now, how times have changed, and indeed how the world of social media has changed, and how time flies when you're having a lot of fun. And at IBT Online, I think that we do have a lot of fun working successfully with our clients. We're proud of our international award, our trade award, and we're proud of the Online Global Program, which today has served over 400 companies and with over 1,000 localized websites and online marketing programs running. The Online Global Program has a proven track record, and some of it is what we're going to be sharing with you today, drilling down into the social media and the international online marketing. So that is an introduction. It's time for me to hand over to Susanna and Ines and say thank you very much indeed, and I'll be back later with the polls.
John, thank you very much. And from Minesh and I, Susanna Hardy, we're delighted to be here on this webinar to talk about social media and how we think it helps businesses. The first thing we're really going to talk about is what we've sort of called the sort of global community. And really what we mean about that is this connectedness that you now find throughout the world. Over 50% of the entire world is on the internet. This is simply amazing. This is huge. Remember that this barely existed 15 years ago. So it's really quite something. And it's interesting looking at those numbers, seeing where the big penetration rates are, for example, in mobile phones. After all, these again, were pretty well non-existent. And now, they carry as much information as small computers. I think our main take about all this is that the online world is extremely good news for small mid-cap sized companies that want to export. We view it and see it every day as our clients use the internet and online tools that we find to level the playing field. That means that they can compete head-on with well-capitalized multinational huge companies. They can compete and use their resources wisely to grow internationally, build their brand awareness online, and really export and reach global proportions. We'll get some examples of what we mean by that. But first, I also wanted to give a quick snapshot also of social media use. And again, these charts, they're put out by Hootsuite every year. And these charts or infographics date from January. So we know that these numbers are already well surpassed. There's many more than this. There's over 40%, active of the world's population are active social media users. And again, we're going to drill down and see sort of where that plays out in country by country. And I think one of the things we wanted to highlight on this slide in particular was how what marketeers say social is catching up with search. And what we mean by that, really in the past, if you had the internet and you wanted to find out, for example, where is a good pizzeria in my neighborhood? Well, you'd go onto Google and you'd say pizzeria in my neighborhood, and Google would answer you with some suggestions. Now, in many countries and in many, many different types of age groups and demographics, you're not going to look only at Google. You're going to go not just to your browser, your search engine, but also to your social media groups. And you're going to go and see who liked what, and what the reviews were, and what your best friend liked, and perhaps even find that some of your friends might be in your neighborhood and invite them out for a pizza. So it's a very different type of interaction. I've given the example, or the trite example, of a consumer looking for a consumer good, like a pizzeria or something like that. But the same is going on in the business-to-business world. The same is going on between distributors, between even government organizations. So when we're talking about social catching up with search, what we mean by that is really that the world has become, business has become much more consumer or client, customer focused. And the best graph that I've seen on this, or the clearest one I've seen on this, is sort of this graph here, this diagram here, which shows you on the one hand what a company would dealt with, or what the environment looked like for a company in the past, before a lot of social media. There was one-to-one or bilateral agreements or interactions between the company and the customer in each case, and between the company and its partners, and probably not a lot of contact between the company and competitors, or hopefully not. Now, today, the world is significantly different. The customer is in the center. It is customer-centric. And that is because the customer is able to interact with other customers, to review, to look at, to engage, and to discover things on the internet. And it's really the internet that allows those kind of multi-channel and relationship models to exist for companies today. And a company has to work very hard in order to remain front of face and in the front of mind, and if the right brand for all of its customers, for the customers to engage well about it, for its partners to be happy with it, and even engage occasionally even with its competitors, or know that it can get its competitors. So this is the sort of environment that we want to talk about, this customer-centric, market-specific, customer-centric environment for business today.
Susanna, that's an amazing slide. I like the way you said it was simpler, or one of the best. I find that kind of complicated to look at. I've been staring at it for a while to understand it, but I would like to take this opportunity to launch the poll and see what you all think about it. Please, are you ready? Here we go. Yesterday and today, and it's social media. Do you use social media? Does your company use social media? Is it actively, sometimes, or are you thinking about it? Right, let me give you some feedback. 50% are saying actively, 45% are saying sometimes, 5% are thinking about it. It's multi-answer, and there's a good 5 to 10% saying no. So that's very interesting. Thank you very much indeed. With that information, I hope that Susanna and Ines can better also tailor the presentation. That's our objective for those of you who are active, those of you who are sometimes, how we can best help you going forward. I'm closing this poll and I'm thanking you very much indeed.
Hi everyone, I'm Ines. It's great to be here today. I just wanted to give you a little example to really illustrate what Susanna has been saying about the changing customer company dynamics and interaction. Obviously the web and social media have really put customers in a position of power. They can now easily communicate experiences with each other, and this is all very public, so companies can't get away from that. This has really developed into a new business model where companies take advantage of that to grow much faster and go global very quickly. And a great example of that is Airbnb. Airbnb had the web and social media and a real customer-centric approach in mind from inception. And the actual business model, but the only way Airbnb can work is by relying on customer-to-customer interaction and on the review system, which gives customers the confidence to use the platform. They were only able to grow as fast as they did, so now they're a global leader in less than 10 years because they really leveraged social media and the web in order to grow fast and grow globally.
Thanks, Ines. Yeah, that's I think one of the best examples. They're one of several of those so-called unicorns, like Uber and Airbnb. But I wanted also to get back and take a look at a global view. Here's a world map of social networks in existence today. And it's really, I think there's two very striking things about this. One is how few colors there are and how omnipresent Facebook is across all markets. The big difference, of course, is in China and in Russia, where they have competitors. But behind this is a long list of runner-ups, whether that's WhatsApp, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and so on. And we'll look at some of those ones. But I think what's interesting for me is that, first of all, the scale of it, the size of it, and how present some of these global giants are. And again, we'll focus, drill down on some of the detail on that. But first, I just wanted to show you as well this chart, which, again, this is a long chart, but you will be getting the slide deck. I think what's interesting for me is I sit in the UK, and I think, oh, everybody in the UK uses, Facebook. But in fact, the UK is actually quite far down the list. If you look at Facebook, Facebook penetration rates are about 65–70%. Well, in Mexico, it's more like 90%. In India, it's like 90%. Brazil, YouTube in Brazil is 90% rates. So if these represent some of your export markets, if you're looking at China, France, Japan, Spain, Brazil, these are all markets that have huge social media penetration rates. and really worth sort of having a close eye on. So I wanted to share that with you before we actually drill down and looked at some of the major players across the world. I'm going to start with one which is WeChat. Now, WeChat is the dominant player in China. And this map, in fact, this chart that I took dates from 2013, and there's a reason for that. WeChat, which I'll get to, WeChat is basically a social media application which was developed by its parent company called Tencent. It was first released in like 2011, so pretty recent, and actually quite a bit after sort of the Facebooks and things like that. It is fundamentally a messaging app, but it's got lots and lots of other functions. It's sort of like having a messaging plus PayPal, Facebook, Uber, Amazon, Spotify, Tinder, all in one thing. So it's a key application, a key channel if you want platform, if you want to do business in China. In fact, 90% of internet users in China connect via their mobile and spend more than 1/3 of their internet time on WeChat. So that's, I think, sort of just to show you how omnipresent it is. Now, up until about 2013, they had a lot of ambition to grow and to sort of have direct competition with Facebook in a lot of markets. They've since slightly changed their tact and are now looking a little bit more about developing business applications. So while they still have a good presence in market share in Southeast Asia and are battling for India market share, I think they're really trying to diversify. So they changed their strategy a bit and really targeting business. For example, they encourage Western brands to promote and sell products, particularly for smaller European retailers. Just to give you an example, foreign companies typically need a Chinese business license to operate on an e-commerce business. Now, Tencent, basically, the parent company of WeChat, has launched a program to bypass all of that if you open up on WeChat. So, there's an easy gateway that they're encouraging you to go through for that. Today, WeChat is the largest social media network in China. It's got nearly pretty well 1 billion users, 900 million users that are daily users. And as I said, Chinese users spend about an average of 70 minutes a day with the app. Finally, just to repeat, they do absolutely everything with it, from paying the rent to renting a car to paying their bills, getting parking tickets. It's all done on WeChat. So worth having a look at. Now, the other big the really big dinosaur in the market, of course, is Facebook. Now, Facebook has, in part, I think, spurred by the rise of some of the big Chinese competitors like WeChat, also QQ and the other ones. I think that Facebook then sort of really ramped up its own ambitions and also began a bit of a buying spree. It now owns a whole series and family of apps and services for all the way that both individuals, consumers, and businesses interconnect. So if you look at Facebook plus Instagram plus WhatsApp and Facebook Messenger, that's nearly 4.5 billion people reached actively all the time. Put it this way, over 1 billion people log onto Facebook every day. So it is universal, it's across the world, with some exceptions like China and Russia. And it is very deeply embedded in markets. So it is a fantastic tool for that, for both consumers and for businesses looking to go on. So those are the main sort of big ones that we wanted to highlight. But we also have several others that have real global reach, from Twitter and Instagram, LinkedIn and YouTube. And again, remember that YouTube, some of the big Americans like YouTube are banned in certain markets and will have local competitors. Again, the big exception there being China, where there's a Chinese equivalent to YouTube, which is a competitor. But each of these ones are also, in a sense, localized. And that's, I think, one of the big things that we want to bring out now, is that they all have their own market-specific version for their global presence. So Twitter, for example, is available in over 40 different languages and is localized in over 40 very, very large areas. LinkedIn as well. 70% of LinkedIn users are outside the USA, and is available in 24 languages, YouTube in 76 languages. So that gives you an idea that these organizations, these social media platforms, are global, international, and operate in a very efficient way across international markets. So that's sort of the main sort of headline things that we wanted to show you now. Now, just focusing down, we wanted to really point out that for us, going global means going local, and means localization. And I think there's 3 points we wanted to bring out here. The first was really about search engine localization. If it's probably the easiest way really to understand what localization really means. Search engines are local. So the search engine I'm using sitting in the UK is very different from the search engine Google that you're using in the United States or that you're using in Hong Kong. Might be the same Google. It might, it's still Google, but it is a different or a tweaked. It's been embedded into this market, which means, for example, that the language can be different, the keywords can be different, the geolocation can be different. What we see sometimes is, for example, if companies say, well, I want to attract, let's say I want to attract some Mexican and South American clients, and I'm sitting in Canada. Well, then if I put some Spanish pages on my Canadian website, does that mean I will get South American clients? No, you really do have to have a South American website localized in South America, hosted and so on. And that brings us here to this website localization. I've listed the 10 major characteristics that we sort of have as a tick to box here, tick the boxes of what makes a localized website. The key message is that it is market specific and user focused. So again, it is consumer or client centric. So if your client or your prospect is sitting in Japan, then you need to have a Japanese enabled, a Japanese functioning, a Japanese translated website that uses Japanese appropriate social media to reach out to them. I think that's the key on that we really wanted to highlight. And so that goes for search engines, that goes for websites, and it also goes for social media.
Susanna, can I jump in there for poll number 2, I think it is, and just say thank you very much. That is a useful checklist. I get it. And I'm sure you will get this slide deck. Don't hesitate to look at this page as you're looking at your globalization. But for poll number 2, please, can you participate? Here we are. We're launching it. It is, do you have localized websites for your export market? So going back to what Susanna was saying, are you looking at your markets and exporting to, let's say, Mexico, or let's say Germany, or let's say Japan? And do you have a functioning website, online presence that sits alongside it? Yes, for your main export markets. Yes, but only in a few. Are you thinking about it, or is it no? Let's start at the bottom. 31% are saying no. Another full 25% are saying they're thinking about it. And there is some 10% that are saying yes, but only for a few, and 15 are saying yes for all. So well done to all of you who are, shall we say, for the main export markets, and indeed those of you who are on the road to the online global program and thinking about it. Well, thank you for joining us today. We hope that today's information will be of use to you as you go down the road, your journey to online global. Thank you. I'm closing today's second poll and handing back to, it's Susanna and Inesh. Thank you.
Thank you very much, John. I'm just going to jump straight into social media localization and why it's important for your export market. The one message I really want to convey with this is you need to get to know your audience. Just like with a website, when you localize it, you really want to make sure that it resonates, that it's immediately familiar and recognized by your audience as local. The same goes for your social media, and it's probably more difficult because you need to do it day in, day out. There are a few different considerations that I would always look at when you're trying to launch a social media presence in an export market. The first is your social media platform choice. Just like Susanna has highlighted, depending on where you're looking at, what country you're looking at, what market you're looking at, and industry, a different platform may be appropriate. So don't presume to know, and definitely don't go with all of them, because you won't be able to do them justice. So make sure you choose your platform carefully where your target audience are most active. Secondly, look at their social media habits, and these can really change and vary from country to country. So to find out what time they tend to be active, it makes a huge difference to sort of effectiveness of your content, whether it goes out when your audience are paying attention. Also find out why they're going onto their social media. Are they going onto their messenger to talk to their friends? Are they looking for brand information? Or are they looking for recommendations? Or it really can be a myriad of things, and it's really important to understand their objective with logging on. Finally, find out how they're accessing it, and this is really important when it comes down to designing your content, the actual creative, the posts that you're putting out, where you're directing people to. Are they on mobile, or are they on desktop, or on a tablet? Find these things out and make sure you optimize your content for that. Thirdly, the language is extremely important, and this starts with vocabulary and grammar, simple things, but it goes down as deeply as cultural norms. So is it natural for your target audience to be, addressed by their first name? Do they prefer a title? What's the normal way to say hello? Don't just go with a translation that is correct. Go with something that is locally used and their preferred way of talking. Finally, look at your content format, and this is really essential in any sort of localized social media activity. Do they prefer to watch a video, or would they rather read an article, or be directed straight to your website, or would they rather stay on the social media platform? This is totally variable depending on what the industry is, what the market is, and certainly something that's worth looking into. I just wanted to give you a little example of how easy it is to I guess, get this wrong, and how important it is to really pay attention to detail when localizing for social media. So these are two different words that are correct to say train in Portuguese. You've got trem and you've got comboio, but whereas in Brazil 95% of people use trem, in Portugal 98% of people use comboio. So whereas the translation would technically be correct, if you put something out on social media using one of these words, it could be perceived as totally foreign and a real red flag for your audience that the content is not local.
Thanks, Ines. Yeah, back here with me, Susanna here, and we wanted to. Ines and I were talking about how best to try and sort of what we thought. What are the most important things you needed to have when you were going global with social media? And I guess for us, it really came down to why and how you're going to be able to connect. So it was all about setting and then measuring your objectives. And this is something that we work closely with the clients to really figure out exactly which part, what is the objective for that social media campaign. Now, it's great to have, an objective for the overall website. That's always an important thing to understand. But each campaign should also have a specific measurable objective, and you can measure it in lots of different ways. I put a little table there that shows you lots of different apps and software that you can get to measure the clicks or the through rates or all kinds of things, from Google Analytics to Moz. There's lots of HubSpot. There's lots of different types to measure the brand effectiveness, the market access, the sales, and so on and so on. But for us, what's really a treat, what's really fantastic in social media is that you can launch campaigns see how effective they are and tweak them until you get them right. And then you can say, okay, that's had a real effect, and it has the desired effect that I want it to have. And you can have several running at the same time in a market, or you can have several one after the other, depending on how you are in the market, where you are in the market. And we wanted to share some of those experiences with you. And the best way we could think of doing that was looking at some of the ones we've looked at where we've had campaigns to increase brand awareness, or campaigns to generate leads ahead of trade shows or ahead of local events, and things, or find and validate distributors in individual markets. The most important point here is to have this localized website as sort of like a mothership, which holds the key to the local trust and platform, in the sense, the online real estate you have in your export market. And from there, design campaigns which have specific, measurable objectives that you can then go through and look at and tweak as you need to. And each one of those campaigns is, again, localized and client-focused and client-centric for the market. Now, the three examples and case studies we want to just to highlight quickly for you are all, we thought we'd use a medium that everybody knew, which was Facebook, and that, we tried to get ones that are all in English. So they're in different markets, but they're all in English and they're all on Facebook. So we figured that way you'd all be able to understand them. And I'm now going to pass back to Ines, who's going to walk through some of those examples. So Ines.
Hi everyone. First of all, we're going to look at this campaign that was carried out for Bullman Products, who's one of our clients. Bullman Products have a localized Singaporean website, which is in English, but in Singapore. And Singles Day is an extremely important commercial event in Singapore and China, where, believe it or not, it's bigger than Black Friday. So we really thought it would be worthwhile using social media to leverage Singles Day and direct traffic and sales through the website. So this is a real example of how you can use your social media to capitalize on a local event in one of your export markets. As you can see here, we had the social media person that is directing to the Singaporean language, Singaporean website. And I'll keep going on to the next example. This is another example of global social media being used for lead generation and brand awareness. In this instance, Amzol wanted to generate leads for their UK distributor. Using their UK website as a base, we then created a social media campaign all around a competition where people that are interested in the Amzol brand and in the Amzol products can sign up with an email address to enter the competition, and then also be informed about ongoing marketing and product information. So it's just a real sort of lead generation campaign in a foreign or export market that we carried out.
The objective?
Finally, I'd like to talk to you about this this other social media channel that's, again, for Amzol, but in Mexico. And this page is really optimized for driving sales online, and this directs straight to their distributor website. As you can see here, you've got an actual shop section on Facebook, which allows you to display the products with the prices, the names, and that will go directly to the basket, so that you're picking up all the sales that you can from that Facebook audience. You should also never ignore, and this is something we see time and time again, people don't really pick up on that button option that there is at the top there, circled in yellow. That button can serve for directing to an e-shop. It can serve for lead generation. It can be a call now button that goes straight to your telephone number. So really don't ignore that button. It's a great tool to generate to get to the objective that you've got set in mind. Now I think we're going to poll 3, John.
Absolutely. Look, thank you so much, Ines. That was very, very instructive as I launched there. Good examples, and good examples in each case the purpose and functionality, which is, here we go. What about you? Please, attendees, thank you for sharing with us your views. What interests you about social media for exporting? What are you looking for? How can it help you? Is it all about leads? Many companies want leads. Others are building brand awareness. Others are driving sales, and it's all about the top line. Some are using it to support local partners and distributors. And there are many, many other reasons, good reasons for social media. So let me give you some feedback. The main one that we're getting here is 38 to 40% are saying it's all about building brand awareness. It's about building brand awareness, followed by generating leads, followed by driving online sales. And even 5% are saying it's all about other. So look, thank you very much indeed. This information will come back to you on Friday in the form of the slide deck and the recording. So I'm going to close this third and final poll, and I'm going to hand back. Thank you again.
Thank you, John. And we're really, Ines and I, we're just sort of wanted to round up and conclude so that we could leave a little bit of time for questions. And I guess we really wanted to conclude with a couple of points, really. For us, I guess social media is just an amazingly effective way for companies of any size to develop their global markets. And in a way, we can identify 3 ways and 3 reasons for that. The first is that social media can act as a market research function. So engaging and connecting with local communities, B2B, B2C, gives you insight, and it gives you an international market's response, the local market's response to your products, and that's worth a lot. The second very important reason is that if you decide to launch into that market, your new customers and leads have to be able to find you. They have to know that you exist. So, if you're new customers in a new international market, if you want them to buy your services and products, they have to know that you actually are there and available for them. So social media allows you to punch through and to really be in front of mind. And the third key reason is that social media is a very effective sales channel on its own, whether that's a web shop or that shop button that Ines was pointed out. It allows businesses and consumers as well to directly purchase things through you. So for us, social media is really pretty well the lowest budget, most effective budget way of establishing, building great brand presence in global markets. So to be successful in multiple markets, building sales, brand development, you do not need necessarily to have the deep pockets. You can actually go into all levels of social media through you can all go into all levels of global expansion through social media to exploit any single medium in a very cost-effective way. So social media allows any company to go and engage with potential clients all across the world. So that's sort of our conclusion, really. John, I hope we've left a little bit of time for questions.
Yeah, indeed, there sure are. So thank you very much indeed. There are a good number of questions. What I'll do is I've just been pulling out the ones and sort of grouping them. So I think what I'm first of all going to do, I'm just going to say, Ines, I've got a couple of questions which I think I directly pointed to you. And then there are 2 questions to round it up for Susanna. So number 1, it says, hi, we use several social media platforms like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, but they're not seeing much success. It says ideas, ? Well, there you go, Ines. Ideas.
Good question. Thank you very much. It really is an interesting question. There are a lot of different reasons why you might not be seeing very good results. For example, you could be under targeting or not targeting correctly for the local market. You could have content that isn't quite strong enough, so Facebook's stifling it, or it's not really engaging your audience. Or it could not be very well localized, so it's not really resonating with your audience. But I would give you one piece of advice. I noticed that you said you are on a variety of different platforms. I would say, especially if you're new in a market and don't know it very well, don't spread yourself too thinly. We see a lot of companies trying to have a presence on every social media platform and then not doing any of it properly because they haven't got the resources all the time. So I'd say really optimize for one, focus on one, and then when you've got that really working, move on to the next one.
I like that. That does make a lot of sense. It sounds very, very practical, which does bring on, here's another one. I think it's sort of a beginner in the process, but it says, how much, and so what does it cost, Facebook? What's an ad cost?
Again, a very good question. A Facebook ad, this varies hugely from market to market and from industry to industry, but I will give you a little bit of an idea. I think it's important to keep in mind that you're competing for space in your target audience's news feeds. And so there are really two factors to keep in mind. Firstly, who are you targeting? And this will really sort of affect the cost of it. So the location, are you in a very sort of sought after location where there is a lot of advertising already? And also the industry, do you have a lot of competitors who will be going after that news feed space? And secondly, the quality of your content plays a massive sort of part in the cost, because Facebook does not want to show its users lots of, under par content, images that are not very good, or text that is very, very salesy and pushy. So if you have really strong, sort of well thought out messages and good imagery, you're much more likely to get it cost effectively. But I will say it's generally quite sort of a good value for money, and if you do target correctly, it shouldn't be too difficult to get it done for a small budget.
Thank you. Which, talking about budgets, here's one which is directly applicable. It says $500, $500 US. We have an export, Facebook export campaign, and we've got more website traffic, but zero sales. Disaster. So there you go. There's a practical case. Somebody spent $500 taking Facebook campaign to the website, so traffic but no sales. What's the solution?
Okay, I must say we do see this quite often. It's quite a common problem. I think there are lots of reasons why it could not be converting. It could be that the format of the ad isn't very conducive to people then following through, or the website itself has some sort of navigation problem. But I would say, first of all, look at that peak in traffic that you saw and see where it's from. If you're in a sort of targeting a very specific export market, make sure that your Facebook targeting reflects that, because if you don't target anyone in specific, Facebook will put your advert out to everyone. So it'll be pot luck whether or not you reach the right audience, and so all that traffic could be useless to your actual objective.
Sounds to me as though there's a clear knowledge, expertise and science behind all of that. But Ines, thank you very much. That's wonderful. Over to Susanna. Susanna, here are two quick questions to you as we move towards the end of today's webinar. Number one is how or where should we start on international social media for business? Okay, so it's somebody out there who's beginning, they're at the beginning of the process. Where should they start on social media for business?
I think that's actually it's both a hard question to answer, but it's a key. I'm glad they're asking the question. It's important to understand and set right from the beginning the objectives, and make sure that you understand that once launched, it's got to be continued. There's nothing worse than sort of beginning something and then sort of tapering off. It's like having incomplete or out-of-date information on your website. So let's say, for example, you have a market which is going very well, and you think, though, that it has a lot more potential in it. That's the kind of market that would really, really benefit from a boost in sales, a very quick boost in sales, if you have a good social media campaign linked to it. Alternatively, if you have a market where you think, again, I have strong potential here, but I need to have market research. I need to know if my products will work or not. Again, it's a perfect candidate for starting. The key, I think, really is to say, which markets should I be in long term? That's where I'm going to start, and that's where I'm going to commit my resources to, and then have very specific, very well-defined objectives for all of those markets. And then obviously the very first thing to make sure you have is a localized website to act as a springboard for those social media campaigns.
Yeah, Susanna, and thank you. I mean, here's somebody who is clearly down the road. They're saying that they're in-market distributors, so they've got distributors, and the distributors are in charge, or they're running the local social media campaign, running local social media. Is that a good idea?
I think that's what a lot of companies start off doing, and perhaps before social media became so key, you just sort of did leave local advertising to your distributor. That was part of the game. But in these days, I think that's something that's perhaps has to be reviewed. You know, distributors can be fantastic, but they're not part of your company. And you can't guarantee that the relationship will remain fantastic forever. So essentially, leaving your distributor with your social media means leaving your distributor with your brand and in charge of your brand. And is that a wise decision over a long time? Probably not. It's important to maintain your brand and to make sure also that your brand is consistent from one market to the next. And you're not going to be able to do that if you're handing over control to someone or to an organization that's outside your company. The last thing I'd say about this is that distributors are in the business of distributing. They're not in the business of social media and website localization and other things like that. They know a lot about things like logistics and things like that, but they might not know a lot about online marketing. So you might again be handing over your brand to someone who's not an expert in that business. And again, that is another reason to rethink that role. That not being said, distributors often play a very key role in designing campaigns, in identifying campaigns, in contributing, but I wouldn't leave them in control of the campaigns.
Thank you, Susanna. Yeah, indeed, that sounds like good business sense. Well, that means that we have to move towards the end of today's webinar, and we thank you very much indeed for joining us. We hope that you've enjoyed the webinar, and we hope that you found lots of useful information, lots of great takeaways to help you use social media globally to grow your exports and help you grow your sales, your brands, and your business globally. There is a survey which is about to start, so please stay with us just for a few more seconds. We'd also like to remind you that there is the recording that will arrive on Friday, and also that the next webinar for those who want to sell online in Germany, Tuesday, November the 7th. Please do join us at that time. I would like this opportunity to say, hey, this is for Susanna, this is for Ines. Thank you for what a great job you've done. Really useful, really interesting information on global social media and online marketing. Let's all end the webinar on that high point and say thank you for joining us, and we wish you every success as you go global and using social media for your exports. Thank you again. Bye-bye.